Hello, this video is about Affordable Care Act reporting, filing Form 1094-C. I will cover the purpose of Form 1094-C and walk through each of the four parts of Form 1094-C in this video. The purpose of Form 1094-C is to report to the IRS summary information for each employer and to transmit Forms 1095-C to IRS. Also, the purpose of Form 1094-C is to determine whether an employer owes an employer shared responsibility payment. Let's look at Form 1094-C. Starting with Part 1, the applicable large employer's name, employer identification number, and address should be entered on lines 1 through 6. An applicable large employer, or ALE, is an employer that employed an average of at least 50 full-time employees, including full-time equivalent employees, during the preceding calendar year. The name and telephone number of a person that IRS can contact if they have questions about the 1094-C or corresponding 1095-C forms should be entered on lines 7 and 8. Lines 9 through 16 are only completed if a designated government entity, or DGE, is filing on behalf of the applicable large employer. Otherwise, these lines may be left blank. A DGE is a governmental unit that has been delegated reporting responsibilities of another governmental unit. On line 18, enter the total number of 1095-C forms submitted with the 1094-C, and on line 19, indicate if this 1094-C is the authoritative transmittal. If this 1094-C is not the authoritative transmittal, complete the signature portion of the form and skip parts 2, 3, and 4. If the box on line 19 is checked indicating that the 1094-C is the authoritative transmittal, then parts 2, 3, and possibly part 4 must be completed. On line 20, enter the total number of 1095-C forms filed on behalf of the applicable large employer. For example, let's say that the employer submits 2 batches of Form 1095-Cs to the IRS. 50 1095-C forms are submitted in the first batch, and 75 forms are submitted in the second batch with the authoritative 1094-C. In this case, 50 would be entered on line 18 on the non-authoritative transmittal for the first batch, and 75 would be entered on line 18 on the authoritative 1094-C, in addition to entering 125 on line 20 on the authoritative transmittal, because the total of the 2 batches equals 125 1095-C forms. On line 21, indicate whether the employer is a member of an aggregated ALE group. An aggregated ALE group is 2 or more companies that have a common owner or are otherwise related. Lastly, check any box on line 22 if the ALE meets the eligibility requirements and is using one of the offer methods. Since line 22 can be confusing, let me walk through each of the checkboxes on this line. Box A is for the qualifying offer method. In order to check this box, the employer must certify that it made a qualifying offer to 1 or more full-time employees for all months in which the employee was a full-time employee for whom an employer shared responsibility payment could apply. Box B is no longer applicable and is marked reserved. Box C is also no longer applicable and is marked reserved. To check Box D, the employer must certify that it offered for all months affordable health coverage providing minimum value to at least 98% of its employees for whom it is filing Form 1095-C and offered minimum essential coverage to those employees' dependents. Now let's move on to Part 3 of Form 1094-C. For column A, which is for the minimum essential coverage offer indicator, check yes if at least 95% of the full-time employees and their dependents were offered minimum essential coverage. Do not include those employees in a limited non-assessment period. Be sure to check the 1094-C instructions for any exceptions to this rule. In column B, section 4980H full-time employee count for ALE member, enter the number of full-time employees for each month, not including any employee in a limited non-assessment period. When counting the number of full-time employees, be sure to use the ACA definition of a full-time employee, which is one who is employed on average at least 30 hours per week or 130 service hours per month. For column C, enter the total employee count for the month. This count should include full-time employees, non-full-time employees, and employees in a limited non-assessment period. If line 21 on Form 1094C is checked yes, indicating that the employer was a member of an aggregated ALE group, check the months in column D for each month the employer was a member of an aggregated ALE group. Lastly, if the employer is a member of an aggregated ALE group, by checking yes on line 21, the employer is also required to complete Part 4 of Form 1094C, which is the listing of the other ALE members of an aggregated ALE group. In Part 4, enter the name and employer identification number of up to 30 of the other aggregated ALE members, not including the reporting ALE member. File at yearly.com or call to speak with an ACA filing expert at 800-968-1099. Thank you.